Welcome to Strider Tree Gear. Today we're talking about the RopeRunner Pro, my new favorite climb device. And we're going to be comparing it to the old Singing Tree RopeRunner. So stay tuned, here goes. All right, so I've had the RopeRunner Pro since it came out for the last few months, and it has very quickly become my go-to device, primarily because of how easy it goes back and forth between single rope and double rope. Now, I've got my gloves on right now to show you how I can actually get this thing off the rope and put it on fairly easily, even with gloved fingers. Now, these gloves are pretty dexterous. You know, I don't have much hindrance to my ability to manipulate things, but it comes off very readily. But as you can see, for the most part, all these bits stay attached. That's not always the case. So I've had this pin come out once or twice when I wasn't expecting it, but generally, unless I'm messing with it a lot, they will all stay intact. And so I'll occasionally switch tie-in points or adjust myself in the tree and need to take this off, and I'm not worried at all really about pieces falling while I'm doing that, which is great. So it's super easy to get off, getting it back on. When I stow this on my harness, I usually leave everything just open and disconnected. There's all these clever little points inside where these pins go that capture the pin, but allow it to move enough to where you can back it out and get these pieces closed, but the pin doesn't come all the way out, which is just brilliant. Such good design. So there we go, it's all back on. Super easy, super simple. There's an adjustment right here at the very top. That's the only thing that needs to be adjusted if you change rope diameters. Right now I've got it right in the middle, maybe a little bit more towards the open side because it's new and there's not much wear on this particular friction point. This friction point actually is a replaceable part as well as these slick pins. So one of the cool bits about this device is all the parts that wear can be replaced. Another big advantage. If I'm gonna go ahead and jump on here, probably my only complaint about this device whatsoever is that it doesn't have a swivel. So I found that putting it on my ring seems to be about the right, put it at the right angle. You know, it's not as comfortable working with it when it's on my bridge because it rotates at 90 degrees. And I have to either reach around to work the bird or reach it this way, and it's not quite as nice, but it does shorten it up a little bit. It's a little bit of a long device. It's not quite as compact as the Petzl Zigzag Plus, especially with the fact that the Zigzag Plus has a swivel, but on the whole, it functions very well. Just fine. Gotta get it on the right direction. So once it's on, it's nice. You can work it with either hand. It's very controllable. The friction application is gradual. It doesn't feel jerky or sudden at all. I would say it's just as easy for a beginner to operate as it would be for a real experienced climber. It's a little bit long, so when I'm reaching up and I'm pulling on my rope and trying to manipulate it above me, I find I do have to kind of reach high. I would prefer if it were a little more compact, a little bit lower. I'm gonna work on putting an adjustable bridge in here to kind of suck things in a little bit more too. And I'll probably try and get a swivel that's shorter. And then a lot of the times I'll use a DMM Ultra O instead of this Perfecto because it's also a little bit shorter in length. So that can help that problem a little bit. All in all though, it's a beautiful device. It works with ropes in diameters, anything from 11 millimeters to 13 millimeters, which is a little bit on the bigger side. There's still quite a few ropes out there that are in the 10.5 millimeter diameter. But most of the ones I use regularly, like this Samson Voyager, most of those are a little bit bigger. And this one actually fluffs up as it starts to break into almost a full 13 millimeter half-inch size. I use the Teufelberger Adrenaline and Ecstatic. Both of those work really well for it. My Adrenaline that I put it on was worn when I first put it on there, and it worked perfect with the same settings. And then I got a new Ecstatic rope, and it's a little bit slippery, so I probably would do better to shrink it down a little bit, adjust the for the brand new rope. Anything smaller than that though would have trouble. I would need to adjust it for sure. So now I want to bring in the old RopeRunner and do a little bit of a comparison here. So I'm going to do that. So here we've got the old RopeRunner, and a couple of my biggest complaints about this device in particular: the sharp bird. So when I'm climbing on it and I've got a lot of tension and I go to try and release it, this edge kind of hurts my fingers. It's uncomfortable. There were guys who, especially if I'm not wearing gloves, there are guys who, there's a 4SRT makes a little plate that can actually ride over the top of that, which I'd recommend. But I never purchased it because there were a few other things that disinclined me from using this device in general. The second complaint I had was that it's actually rather difficult to adjust. There's these two nylock nuts on either side of this bolt in the middle, and well, I didn't adjust it frequently because most of my ropes are about the same size, especially now that they're broken in. I always felt like it wasn't quite right. It wasn't quite perfect. Either I had to pull too hard, or it was too sudden, or too slippery, or wouldn't engage as fast. So I was never totally comfortable with it. When it was dialed in for the one rope that I would pick, it worked beautifully, but it didn't go from rope to rope as well as I would have liked. This one has a similar adjustment. Actually, you'll need a tool to adjust it, but it's just an Allen key. And there's a little scale on the side that helps you recognize where you're at. I haven't needed to adjust it though. I'll probably take it in just a hair and leave it, and it'll work fine for all my ropes. The biggest downside to this one though has to do with taking it apart in the tree. When I take this off my rope in the tree, there's a lot of potential parts that could potentially fall. And so I'm just going to demonstrate that real quick. So if I pull the carabiner out, the first thing that I could drop is this pulley. So usually I'll clip that to itself. Then we've got this first slick pin, which has to come all the way out, or close to all the way out. And then now I've got two more parts here that could potentially fall. And so I'm holding on to that, or sometimes I'll clip all these together on my carabiner if I'm in the tree and I really don't want to lose it. So now those are all together. And then I've got one more slick pin here. And this one's a little bit harder to get out. It doesn't have to come all the way, so I can leave that slick pin in and I can get my rope out. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, potentially 5 bits that might fall when I'm trying to move around the tree. And any one of those would ruin my day. So because I do pretty frequently play around with my anchors, that's a kind of a deal breaker. Now, Fannerman, if you check him out, he's actually got a pretty cool little system where he's got all the little pieces tied together on the same rope, which is neat, and that's probably a good solution. I never got around to doing that, but if this is the only device you've got, you don't got cash for a new one, then that's a good solution. So check out Fannerman, or what's his name? Lawrence Schultz, the Schultz effect. His videos, or his little demonstration, I think he has it on Instagram that you can see what he did there. But I'm gonna go ahead and put this back on. I found that while I can do this one with gloves, it's a little bit more difficult, not terribly so, but a little bit more difficult than the new RopeRunner trying to do with gloves. But that's primarily as a function of it having so many individual pieces. The last thing that was kind of a downside was this is the tending point on this device. I've added a little bit of hitch cord, which potentially could cause a problem if it got caught right there on the bird and I sat on it, because now it won't hold if it stays on that. If it were to get caught right there and I were to sit in it, it could potentially free fall, which would be no bueno. But that's the only way I found to effectively clip in and out easily, and I never had that happen to me, so I'm not too worried about it, but it was something I was made aware of and is worth considering. They fixed that particular fault with the new one by having a little tending point right here. And so it's super easy for me with these Monkey Beaver suspenders and a little DMM accessory beaner to just clip in right there. And now it tends beautifully on the new one. So they solved that problem. All in all, it's a big improvement in every way. I've used a single rope, I use a double rope. I don't, it's, like I said, it's become my favorite device to use in the tree, and I do highly recommend it. It's a little bit cheaper at the end of the day than buying a Petzl Zigzag Plus and a chicane, or Petzl Zigzag Plus and a rope wrench and a tether. So it's not really, it is more expensive as far as devices go, but it's not any more expensive than other good combos. It's similar price to the Unisender, but this is a much nicer device to use, much easier. It tends way easier when I'm going up on a single or a double line. It's got this pulley, which is nice. The rope never comes out. There's got no way for it to come out or get out of place like the Unisender. And just like the Unisender, it also doesn't have a swivel. So it's not really worse in any way, but it's better in a number of ways. So this is my new recommended go-to device if you're only gonna have one. I love it, and I'm looking forward to see where they go. Thank you, Kevin Bingham and Notch, for putting that great device together. You guys did a great job. I'm excited to keep using that in the tree. And thank you to my following, my subscribers. You guys are making some awesome things happen. This channel has been growing more than I ever expected. So let me know in the comments if there's particular content you'd like to see, other tips and tricks, techniques, or gear that you want to see reviewed. You guys are what's making it all happen, so I appreciate it. We'll catch you next time on Strider Tree Gear.